If you're looking for D&D inspiration and information, then you are in the right spot, because today we are going to be talking about the Bunny Burglar, a small slave to a big gambler. In order to play the Bunny Burglar, you are going to need to be a Harengon Rune Knight Fighter. The Bunny Burglar grew up in a small community of Harengon that was protected and lorded over by the mighty Cloud Giants. Part of living under these Cloud Giants was paying tribute to them on a yearly basis. This tribute included the Harengon's finest crafts, a large feast, and a few slaves to boot. Being considered abnormally small for a Harengon, the town chose the Bunny Burglar as one of the required slaves. Once the Bunny Burglar arrived at the Cloud Giant Sanctuary, he was surprised to learn how the Giants divvied up this bounty of treasure, food, and slaves amongst each other. They gambled for it. They spent hours playing games of chance to see who came away with what. The winner of the Bunny Burglar was a strange masked Cloud Giant who always seemed to be smirking behind the mask. The strange masked giant took the bunny aside and branded him with his first slave mark, which we're going to flavor as his Cloud Rune from his Rune Knight subclass. While the Bunny Burglar was doing anything the strange giant asked, he learned the language of the giants, and learned that the more slave marks someone has, the higher they were in the giant's eyes, being seen as more trustworthy and being given better rewards. While doing his normal work, the little burglar was surprised to hear his master make a bet with another giant. "I bet you your position in the ordering that my little slave can steal Ariel's tear from the Great Tower. If he fails, you may have him." This other giant accepted this agreement, and just like that, the bunny's fate was sealed. He was branded a second time, increasing his rank in the eyes of the giants, and was released into the world far too big and far too scary, with a mission far too difficult. The Bunny Burglar is surprisingly happy to be a slave. He understands the world of the giants and is scared of the much larger world. He likes that he knows his role and there's no question of what his place in the world is. And he's always on edge, which is shown through his proficiency in perception that comes from being a Harengon. He is overwhelmed and nervous by the task that his giant master has set out for him, but he's nervously moving towards it because he knows that's what his place is. And finally, being from a very small section of the world, he is in awe of all the things he sees out in the rest of the world. It is very much so way bigger than him, and it blows him away all the time. In combat, our little bunny is very versatile with his weapons. He can go with a buckler and a rapier, or he can mix in a short bow for some range. His master often had him compete in contests of skill, where he learned a thing or two about wielding weapons. He may have learned to use all sorts of armor, but his preference is his trusty medium armor. Always being on edge, the Bunny Burglar gets to add his proficiency bonus to his initiative, making him quick to react to threats. He also has the rabbit hop ability that lets him jump 5 times his proficiency bonus as a bonus action, a number of times equal to his proficiency bonus per long rest. This jump is not capped by movement, nor does it incur opportunity attacks, so it can be thought of like a pseudo-cunning action. You can either get extra distance, like a little dash, or get away from enemies, like a disengage. This is excellent as a bonus action, especially because you're not going to be using your bonus action for many other things. The Bunny Burglar's slave runes grant him power from his master to complete his task. Once per short rest or long rest, he can activate these runes to give him a power spike. These runes can do damage or debilitate the enemies and should not be underestimated. His slave runes also allow him to go big. The Bunny Burglar, however, does not like to be big. He doesn't like the way it makes him stand out, so he uses it tactfully, escaping a grapple, reaching higher places, breaking out of shackles, etc. He's not going to often giant out just for combat's sake. Out of combat, the Bunny Burglar is a burglar. His Cloud Rune gives him advantage on deception and sleight of hand checks. The Fire Rune gives him double proficiency on any tool he has proficiency in. This includes thieves' tools. Being paranoid with giant sensitive ears makes the Bunny Burglar a great lookout or scout as well. In a pinch, the bunny can also giant out and gain advantage on strength checks. He doesn't see himself as strong and won't do this often, but it's definitely within his wheelhouse. And with proficiency in insight, you might be the party's lie detector, though he certainly doesn't specialize in this. That said, he does get significantly better at it when he picks up the stone rune somewhere down the road. During the Bunny Burglar's downtime, he would be trying to position himself to steal Ariel's tear. Now, Ariel's tear is just the MacGuffin for him to go chasing. It can really be anything. He would also be overwhelmed by the world and may look for places he could feel comfortable. If he couldn't find such a place, he would be paranoid and on edge, jumping at the slightest sound. His master would undoubtedly pop in now and again to check in on his progress and to provide assistance where his agreement with the other giant allowed. The other cloud giant, on the other hand, would undoubtedly do everything in his power to stop the Bunny Burglar from completing his mission. The key mechanics of playing the Bunny Burglar is he starts out with his Fire and Cloud Rune. These are core to his roguelike persona. At level 7, I would pick up the Storm Rune, followed by the Hill Rune, and finally the Stone Rune, leaving the Ice Rune for another slave to use. Dex is his primary stat, followed by Constitution, with Charisma as his far third. The Bunny Burglar is skill hungry. He can grab Athletics and Insight from being a fighter, Stealth, Thieves' Tools, and Pickpocket from his background. Those giants had him doing all sorts of things after all. And finally, Perception from him being a scaredy rabbit. Even though the Bunny Burglar is really flexible, he still has a couple weaknesses. His wisdom save will be low, and this is going to be slightly mitigated once he gets Indomitable later from his fighter line, but it still will be an issue. His damage output is also mediocre. He doesn't get the same heavy weapons that other fighters get to enjoy because he is small. He's timid and may be easily bullied. This is more of a role-playing weakness, but one I would lean into. He's timid and may be easily bullied. This is a role-playing weakness, but one I would lean into. He is also very short rest dependent, kind of like a warlock. He needs to get all of his abilities back from his runes, from his fighter's line. Everything comes back on a short rest, so he's going to want to get those often. Using the Bunny Burglar as an NPC, it would be very unlikely that the Bunny Burglar ever attacked the party directly. He would definitely try to run if they got hostile. However, if the party has been collecting items of interest to the Cloud Giants, he just might do his best to rob them of those items. It could end up working together though, whether legitimately or by the Cloud Giant manipulating them. They could work on a heist to get a rare item with the promise of some great reward that may or may not come. The keynote I would be aiming for with the Bunny Burglar is a combination of a paranoid personality mixed with an extremely versatile skill set. He's mobile, he can fight at any range, and he's skilled enough to tackle many situations. It's not many characters that can be a roguelike and still have the strength to bully people. He really fits a niche that not many characters hit. What would you do to make the Bunny Burglar better? Let us know in the comments below. And on the next episode of D&D Flavor Builds, we're going to be talking about the She-Devil. Hit the subscribe button because you're not going to want to miss it. See ya!